What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and I'm here today to talk about two horror films that I saw over the weekend via the Popcorn Film Fest. They are called The Third Saturday in October Part 5 and The Third Saturday in October Part 1. These movies are fire. So before I even get into my story time, I gotta let the filmmaker and the cast and crew know that I really enjoyed the hell out of these movies. They're both in my top 2020 movies list, and man, I can't wait for them to hit some streaming network so everybody can see it. So I had to get that out of the way first. You know, probably wondering why I said in that specific lineup, saying part 5 first and then part 1 second. It's weird, right? But that's what the director wants you to watch him as. And let me go ahead and get into how this came about, right? So a good friend of mine, Twitter friend named Angel Relic, I saw him tweet the poster for part 5, and he had his synopsis up there. And I saw it and I was like, oh wow, a slasher movie that takes place in '94, and it kind of fits the film aesthetic of that time. I was like, okay, I'm down. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, with it being part 5, I was like, so there are like 4 other movies like this that somebody made now that tap into nostalgia. Hey, what's up? And before I could even DM him, he tweeted a poster of part 1. And I was just like, okay, I gotta find these films. I gotta search for it. So I'm bringing him up because he's the one that gave me this link to go into this film fest. And thank you, I'm telling you that now. But great movies, yo. So I'm gonna start with part 1 and part 5 and show you how they relate. So the movie is about a serial killer who pretty much killed a lot of people in this town in Alabama. And this is part 1. And they finally catch him and they give him the electric chair. And as you can probably tell with slasher movies, he doesn't die and he comes back for revenge, right? Now, sounds pretty standard and what you would expect from a slasher movie. But the thing about this film is I have never in my life seen a horror movie recapture the time it's set in better than this. You know, I thought Ty West did it the best within the horror genre, you know, with House of the Devil and X, proving that he kind of understands, he really understands the film aesthetic and how to make things look the way they do when it comes to editing, when it comes to color grading, when it comes to everything in regards to retro films. But the third Saturday in October, part 1, is done so flawlessly that you could play this for somebody and you would fool them and thinking that this was a movie actually shot back then. Like, I don't know how the director and crew did this, because this thing looks exactly like a film from the 70s. Because if I'm not mistaken, it takes place in 78 or 79. I believe it's 79, but everything about the movie feels like you found this in somebody's house next to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, blah, blah, blah. Like it feels right off the cloth, from the color grading to the graininess and the imperfections in how the visual looks, to the set design, to the cars, to the even the dialogue. Like the dialogue is so over the top and pretty cheesy that it feels like something that, you know, you've heard and seen in a 70s movie. Like it's brilliantly done. And what I like about the movie is, again, is the aesthetic, man. Like, I've never in my life seen something done this well. And in contrast, you know, part 5 is taking what part 1 built and just accelerating it to part 5 in a franchise. Because you all know, in a horror franchise, once you got into part 5 in a movie series, you know what comes with it. You know, by that time, it's just a cash grab. They're just trying to up the stakes, you know, more gore, more violence, more over-the-top shit, blood everywhere, bad acting, not even a real linear story. Like, that's what part 5 is. Part 5 is literally just skipping over 2, 3, and 4, and here we are. And what makes part 5 so brilliant is it takes place in '94, so it looks completely different than part 1. And at the beginning of part 5, you even have cut scenes of the killer killing people in those movies that were not even filmed. And I found that shit to be so brilliant in the execution, man. Like, seriously. And as you know, both movies take place on Halloween, so I say they're perfect for the Halloween season. You know, I'm itching at a chance to watch them again because I have been thinking about both of these films since I saw them. And so those are really the two films. And, you know, the director wants you to watch part 5 first and then part 1. And personally, I think I enjoyed them watching, because I watched part 1 first and then part 5 because, like I said, the guys I mentioned, Evan and Agent Relic, who showed me the movies, they watched them like part 5 first and then part 1, and they liked part 5 more than 1. But for me, it's the reverse, because seeing part 1 is legitimately a great fucking film. Like it takes itself more seriously and it balances it out well, and it's because the first film in the franchise usually is the one to set the tone, and it's pretty much the building blocks of what a franchise can be. And it's an hour and 42 minutes, and it throws so much in there, so much story, so much character building as to why the killer is doing what he does. Like, again, part 1 is just mind blowing to me. You know, it feels like Texas Chainsaw Massacre thrown in a pot, The Town of Dread of Sundown thrown in a pot, Black Christmas thrown in a pot. Cook that mug, put it in a casserole, and then you sprinkle on some Halloween, and then you bake it. That's exactly what this movie feels like in every sense of the word. A great score, and the dialogue feels so fitting of the time. It's ridiculous. Like, it literally feels like somebody found a script from there and shot that script word for word. Like, sounds like it. Like, it has this retro quality about the way everybody's speaking, which is one thing that I don't think a lot of people who movies that take place in the past have done well. You know, it may look the part here and there, but it doesn't really all the way look the part, or the way people talk has a certain modern aspect to it that doesn't sound like it's from that time. You know, that's one of my biggest issues with Fear Street. Love the 3 movies, but outside of like some music choices and clothing choices, it doesn't really feel or look like it's from that time. And like I said, this shit nails it, and especially 1970. Like they have accelerated zoom ins on certain parts, which is something that literally was a major thing back in the 70s. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Quentin Tarantino does it a lot of in his movies, where it'll turn and cut and the camera just kind of zooms in on a person. Like, it gets that down pat. And even with the way the kills happen, man, it just, oh man, they capture it so well. My God. And then fast forward to part 5, where, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's just cheesy and corny and over the top. Like, all of the kills are just so overblown and done that you have no choice but to just laugh. There's one in particular that I could not believe that they really did. I have never seen anything like that. And the funny thing about it is there's a line that foreshadows right before it happens, but you never once put 2 and 2 together that this is gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So it really hones in on being overly cheesy and just not anywhere near as good as the first one as far as a technical film standpoint. And even with this aesthetic, like, it captures the essence of, you know, a southern little city. It's something that I really haven't seen a lot. Like, you know, most of the time these movies take place in, you know, small towns, but this one is just kind of like literally a little back road in the South. Again, doubles down on how important football is to a little southern city like this. Because, you know, if you know, the third Saturday in October is based around Alabama football, you know, college, you know, specifically. And both movies take place during each weekend when it's a championship game or whatever. I'm not big in football, so you know, but they take place during these big games, and you just really see that small town vibe for each one. You know, the first one takes place in a few locations, but part 5 takes place mostly in one house, and having it in one house just makes it feel even more intimate and just over the top. Like, when you watch it, it's a riot. Like, you have to go into part 5 knowing what it's trying to be to really appreciate it. And for me personally, that's kind of why I think watching part 1 would be better, because I think the tonal shift is a little different, going from something that's serious and well crafted to something that's purposely not being that is an easier watch than the reverse, in my opinion. And yeah, man, I think both these films are crafted excellently. And if you're wondering like where to watch them, they're not out yet. They're still making their festival rounds. If you know, for those who don't know, when indie films, before they hit streaming, a lot of times most of the times they go to all of these festivals, and what ends up happening is a streamer will pick it up. And I have no doubt in my mind that this movie is going to get picked up by somebody by the time October hits. Like, I guarantee it, because these two are the perfect double features to have for a streaming service. I'm hoping Shudder gets it because they offer physical copies still, and I want to buy both of these on Blu-ray to add to my collection, man. They are that good, yo. So be on the lookout for both of these movies, and like they are a love letter to slashers from the past. And if you are a fan of slashers, definitely watch these. They have comedy, they're satirical, they have some gnarly kills, the score is great, the cinematography is beautiful. Just all around great movies, man. So if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.